Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be showing you how to make a crochet dress. The weather's getting hot where I'm at, so it's time for me to make some cute dress designs, naturally. With this dress, we went with the Trinity for texture, kept it sleeveless because sometimes it's too hot, and gave it a cute collar because it matched the vibe. Speaking of, if you're looking for a project to match your vibe, you're in the right place. We've got hundreds of modern crochet designs with more coming on the way, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on with the show, so without further ado, for this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 650 grams of yarn. That's 800 yards if you're stateside. Aster tools, a 5.5 and 6.5 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your favorite barbecue food. I love ribs, but I'll eat sides for days. So potato, macaroni salad, coleslaw, baked beans, corn on the cob, and pretty much everything else you can think of, I'm into. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 5 stitches for this project and will be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and Trinity stitch. This tutorial is for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we'll explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this dress started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 5.5 millimeter hook and start off by making an odd number chain that starts about an inch underneath our underarm down to where our waist is, because we're about to get started on the top half of our dress. So I've already measured mine out. I need a total of 7 inches or 18 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 27. Now that we have our chain, we're going to get started on our first Trinity stitch row. Start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. Using a medium to loose grip, we're going to single crochet into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and our first Trinity stitch is always going to start with a single crochet. And now we're going to start by inserting our hook into that same chain that our single crochet is in. So insert your hook into that same stitch, pull up a loop for 2 loops on our hook. We want a total of 4, so we're going to pull up a loop into the following 2 chains as well. Into that next chain, insert your hook, pull through for 3 loops, and then insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through for 4 loops. When we have 4 loops on our hook, we are going to yarn over and gently pull through all 4 of those loops. Then, to finish our Trinity stitch, we're going to chain 1. That's how we are always going to start our first Trinity stitch. Let's do the following one. To start our next Trinity stitch, we're all going to insert our hook into the same chain that the last Trinity stitch is worked into. So this is mine right here. I'm going to insert my hook into that same chain, pull through for 2 loops on our hook. We want a total of 4 again. So into that following chain, insert, pull through, and then into that following chain, insert, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. From there, yarn over, pull through all 4, then chain 1 to finish that Trinity stitch. Let's do this again. Besides our first and our last Trinity stitch, our Trinity stitches will be a repeat of that previous one that we did. So as a refresher, insert your hook into the last chain that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into. This is mine right here. Insert, pull through into that following chain, insert, pull through, and then into that following chain, insert, pull through for a total of 4. When we have those 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, and to finish off this stitch, chain 1. Let's do one more a little bit quicker. Into that same chain that our last trinity stitch was worked into, insert, pull through for 2 loops. Into that following chain, insert, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Into that following chain, insert, pull through for 4 loops. Yarn over, gently pull through all 4 of those loops, and then chain 1. Continue to do this until we have 2 chains left. Now that we have 2 loops on our hook, we're going to do our last trinity stitch, including an increase. So our last trinity stitch is going to start off the same way as all of our other ones. So into that last chain that our previous trinity stitch was worked into, we're going to insert, pull through. Insert your hook into that following chain, which is the second to last, pull through, and then also insert your hook into that following chain, which is the last. Yarn over, pull through. When we have those 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4. And when we do our last trinity stitch of the row, we're always going to close it off with a single crochet into that same last stitch instead of doing a chain. That's how we keep the bottom nice and straight. But we do need to do an increase as well. So into that same last chain, after we did our single crochet, we're going to do 1 half double and then also 1 double crochet. So to do our half double, we will yarn over, insert your hook into that last stitch, pull through. When we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And now we have to do a double crochet, so yarn over. Into that same last stitch again, insert, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And that is our increase in how we are going to close off every odd number row. Now getting started on our row 2, we aren't going to do any increases or decreases. So just to get started, we're going to chain 1 and flip our work. Now the first trinity stitch is always going to start with a single crochet. So insert your hook into that last stitch from our previous row with 1 single crochet. And now let's do our first trinity stitch. So into that same stitch that our single crochet is in, insert your hook, pull through, insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through, and then into that following stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, and chain 1. Our first trinity stitch is finished. Let's do the following. Into that same last stitch that our previous trinity stitch was worked into, insert your hook into that stitch, pull through. Into that following stitch, insert, pull through, and then into the stitch right after that, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, and chain 1. We're going to continue to do this until we have 2 stitches left. Now that we're at the end of our row 2, we should have 1, 2 stitches left, and let's do the last trinity stitch together. Since we're along the bottom, we need this to be blunt, so we're going to finish this row off with just a single crochet right after our trinity stitch. So into that last stitch that our previous trinity stitch has worked into, insert, pull through, into that following stitch, which is the second to last, insert, pull through, and then into that last, insert, pull through. When we have those 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, and to keep this bottom end nice and blunt, single crochet once. Now from here, it's going to be a repeat of these 2 previous rows. So just to get it started again, chain 1, and start our row 3 with our first trinity stitch, which is going to start with 1 single crochet into the first stitch from our previous row. Inserting your hook into that same stitch that our single crochet is in, pull through. Into that following, pull through, and into that following stitch, pull through. When we have those 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, and chain 1. And just to do the following trinity stitch again, insert your hook into the last stitch that our previous trinity stitch is worked into, insert, pull through, into that following, pull through, and into that following, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1. Continue to do this until we have 2 stitches left. We're nearly at the end of our row 3. We should have 2 stitches left, so now let's do our increase. Into the last stitch that our previous trinity stitch was worked into, insert your hook, pull through, into that second to last, pull through, into that last, pull through. Yarn over, pull through all 4. Now to do our increase, we're going to single crochet into that last stitch, and also do a half double crochet and a double crochet, and that is how we do our increase. Like I said, we are not going to increase into our even number rows, so chain 1, flip our work, and do our trinity stitch all the way down. From here, continue to repeat these 2 rows until this can stretch from mid-underarm to the corner of our underarm, and I will meet you back right after an increase row or an odd number row. My underarm portion is all finished up. I have a total of 5 rows and my width is 2 inches or 5 centimeters. From here, since we should have ended along the increase end, we're going to make an even number chain that reaches up to the top of our shoulder. I need 4.5 inches or 12 centimeters, so I'll make a chain of 16. After our chain, we're going to do our trinity stitches back down. So as a refresher, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and then into that chain that we blocked off or the second chain from our hook, insert with a single crochet to start our first trinity stitch. Inserting your hook into that same chain that our single crochet is in, pull through, insert your hook into that following chain, pull through, and then into that following chain as well, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. When we have all 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1 to secure. To do the following trinity stitch, insert your hook into that last stitch that our previous trinity stitch is worked into, insert, pull through, into that following, pull through, and then into the chain after that, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1, and continue to do our trinity stitch, making our way all the way down, making sure that the last trinity stitch closes with a single crochet to keep the bottom nice and even. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and then repeat. Our shoulder portion isn't going to have any increases or decreases. We want to continue on with this row repeat until we get a shoulder portion that reaches the base of our neck, and I'll meet you back along the bottom so we can get started on the neckline. My shoulder portion is all finished up. I have a total of 10 rows and my width is now 4 inches or 10 centimeters, and now we're going to do our neckline. So put this up to yourself and insert your stitch marker into an even numbered stitch right at the base of our neck from the top, and insert your stitch marker. I inserted my stitch marker into the 12th stitch from the top, and that is just about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. From here, since we all should be along the bottom, do our trinity stitch, making our way all the way up, making sure that we end our last trinity stitch into the stitch right before our stitch marker stitch. I've made my all the way up with my trinity stitch until I've reached my stitch marker. From here, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and then repeat. So make your way down with our trinity stitches with no increases and no decreases. We're going to continue to repeat this row until this can work across our chest to the other side of the base of our neck, making sure that we end along the top. And then I will meet you back. So I am back and my neckline is all finished up. I have a total of 23 rows. My width is just about 8 inches or 20 centimeters, and I did end along the top. From here, we're going to make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped along this side right after we finished our shoulder. If you have my numbers, I skipped a total of 12 stitches. So from here, all I'm going to do is chain 12, flip my work, and then do my trinity stitches for the same amount of shoulder rows as our first shoulder portion. When we have that finished, we should all end along the bottom, and then I will meet you back to do our underarm. I'm back with my shoulder. I now have a total of 28 rows. My width is now just about 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. Now we're ready to do our underarm. So first, we're going to need to insert our stitch marker into the same amount of chains that we made that led all the way up to our shoulder. If you have my numbers, I made a total chain of 16. So counting from the top, I counted down 16 stitches and then inserted my stitch marker into there. From here, since we should be along the bottom, I will do my trinity stitch, making my way all the way up until we have 2 stitches right before my stitch marker left. But for that last trinity stitch, do not do a chain 1. I've just done my trinity stitch all the way up. I have 2 stitches left right before my stitch marker stitch, and for my last trinity stitch, I did not close it off with a chain. So right after this trinity stitch, all we're going to do is decrease into the following 2 stitches right before our stitch marker stitch. So remembering not to close this last trinity stitch with a chain, we're going to insert our hook into that second to last stitch, pull through, into that last stitch, pull through. When we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that is how we decrease. Now we're going to be decreasing into every other row because we did an increase into every other row when we did our underarm on the other side. So just chain 1, flip our work, and then do our trinity stitch all the way down. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows. So a row that ends on a decrease of 2 single crochets and then a regular trinity stitch row. We're going to continue to do that until we have the same amount of rows as our underarm portion when we started this piece off. Once we have that, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back to get started on the back panel. Alright, so I am back and I am all finished up with my front panel. I have a total of 33 rows and my width is just about 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. And now we're going to get started on the back. Now my back panel is all finished up. It's going to be done pretty much the same way as the front, so I'm going to talk you guys through it. Getting started on the back, we're going to make the same chain that we made when we started off our underarm portion. We did the same amount of rows for the underarm with the same increases, and then we made the same chain that led all the way up to the top of our shoulder. The only difference from our front panel is the back panel isn't going to have the neckline cut out. So we're going to continue to do our trinity stitches with no increases and no decreases for the same amount of rows as we have for the front panel's shoulder, neckline, all the way to the last shoulder row. And lastly, when it comes to doing the underarm for the back panel, that's going to be done exactly the same way as the front panel. If you need timestamps for any of those sections, those will all be linked within the description. But go ahead and get the back panel all finished up, and then I will meet you guys back. Our front and back panel are all done, and now we're going to seam the sides. So first things first, we're going to place the front panel on top of our back panel, and then insert our same 5.5mm hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back. From there, insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now let's do a single crochet seam. So start by finding that first available stitch into the front panel, insert your hook into there. Find that next available stitch into the back panel, insert your hook into there, and then single crochet them together. And then that's it. Let's do one more. Find that next stitch into the front panel, insert your hook into that stitch. Find the next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook into that stitch, and single crochet. Continue to do this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Our sides are all seamed together. Now I need to seam our shoulders. So making sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seams that we have are along the outside. We're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. From here, we will be putting 1 single crochet into every side row. So start by finding that first side row that we have within the front panel. Find that top loop and insert your hook in through there. Do the same thing on the back. Find the top loop within that side panel, within that side row, and then single crochet them together. Let's do that again. Find that following side row within the front panel, insert your hook in through that top loop. Find the following side row within the back panel, insert your hook in through that top loop, and single crochet, and then that's it. Continue to do this till we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Now that everything is seamed together, let's get started on our waistband. So flipping our work right side out, meaning all of our seams are now along the inside, we're going to insert our hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of our piece. Insert your yarn onto your hook. Pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. From here, we'll be putting 1 single crochet into every side row. Start by finding that first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert my hook with a single crochet. Let's do another. This is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook with another single crochet, and then that's it. Continue to put 1 single crochet into every side row. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, slip stitch into that chain space. Now that our single crochet row is finished, we're going to need to try on our piece to make sure that our piece fits. Sometimes a single crochet row can be just a little bit too tight. The single crochet row is going to be as wide as our waistband can stretch. So if you try to fit this over your shoulders and it's a little too tight, redo a couple stitches either with a looser grip or even adding a couple stitches if you need. If you put it on and it's a little too loose, redo a couple stitches a little bit tighter or even take some away. But once we make sure that it fits, from here we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our waistband to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 8. Now that we have our chain, we will block off that last chain, do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, insert with a slip stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. Once more into that following chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through everything. Continue to put 1 slip stitch into every chain, remembering not to tug too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the falling rows can be too tight to work into. Now that we've slip stitched into every chain, we're going to slip stitch it into the base to connect it. To connect this row 1, find that next available stitch into the base. Slip stitch into that stitch to close off this first row. We need to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, yarn over, pull through everything, and flip our work. To start our row 2, find the last stitch from our row 1 and insert into that back loop with a back loop slip stitch. Let's do that again. Into that following stitch's back loop, yarn over, pull through everything, continue to put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of our row 2, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Now that we're back at the base, we're going to connect it once more. So find that next stitch into the base, insert your hook in through there with a slip stitch to close off our row 3. Then to work our way up to our following row, slip stitch in that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, making our way all the way down. From here, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases. I'll meet you back when we don't have any more stitches left in the base to work into, so we can seam it together. Alright, so I'm back. I have just finished up my back loop slip stitch rows. I don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it all together. So this is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam. Start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, and then insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Start by finding the first available stitch into the front panel, insert in through that front loop, find that next stitch into the back panel, insert only in through that back loop. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 of those loops. Let's do that again. Into the next stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop, next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything, and that's it. Continue to do this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. My waistband is seamed, and now we're going to get started on our skirt. We're going to need to single crochet along the bottom first, so insert your hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of our slip stitch band. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and then do a chain up of 1 to secure. From here, put 1 single crochet into every side row. Just to get started, this is my first side row right here, which is this raised row. Find that top loop, insert your hook into there with a single crochet. This is my following side row, which is this divot. Find that top loop, insert with a single crochet again. And then that's it. Continue to put 1 single crochet into every side row. When we don't have any more side rows, slip stitch into that chain space. So now that we have just finished single crocheting across the bottom of our waistband, we're now going to make an odd number chain the length that we need the skirt to be. Now you can make this as long or as short as you'd like, and I've already measured mine out. So switching out to my 6.5 millimeter hook, I'm going to start by making a chain of 47, or that's 13.5 inches or 34 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our Trinity stitch row all the way down. Just to do the first one, block off that last chain, do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, insert with a single crochet. And just to do the first Trinity stitch, insert your hook into that same chain that our single crochet is in. Pull up a loop, into that next chain, pull up a loop, and then into the chain right after that, pull up a loop because we want a total of 4 loops on our hook. From here, gently yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, chain 1, and continue to do our Trinity stitch, making our way all the way down. So I've just made my way down with my Trinity stitch, and now we're going to connect it into the base. So it's going to be the same way that we connected the waistband. So as a refresher, we're going to find that next available stitch into the base and insert our hook in through there, yarn over, pull through everything with a slip stitch to close off this first row. Now for the skirt, the row sequence is going to be a Trinity stitch and then a double crochet row. So to get started on our double crochet row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, yarn over, pull through everything, and then flip our work. Now that our work is flipped, let's do our double crochet. Yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row. Yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2, and that's it. Let's do another double crochet. Yarn over, insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then that's it. Continue to put 1 double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, we're going to do our Trinity stitch row again. So chain 1, flip our work, and do our Trinity stitch row, making our way all the way back up. I'll meet you back at the base just once more. And now that we've made our way back up with our Trinity stitch row, our third row is almost finished. Let's connect it into the base. So find that next available stitch into the base, slip stitch into there to close this row off. Our next row is a double crochet row again, so slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and then put 1 double crochet into every stitch, and then that's it. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 rows with no increases and no decreases, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left, I will meet you back to seam it together. We have just made our way all the way around with our skirt portion. We don't have any more stitches left to work into the base, so now we're going to seam everything together. So first things first, for this single crochet seam, we're going to need to make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. Once when our work is flipped wrong side out, we're going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, and then we're going to pull our working yarn through. Do a chain up of 1 to secure. And since we already know how to do the seam, let's just do the first. Start by inserting your hook into that first stitch into the front panel, and then into that first stitch into the back panel, and then single crochet them together, and then that's it. Continue to do this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. I've just finished up seaming my skirt. The next thing we're going to start working on is our collar. So before we get started on a collar, we're going to need to insert our stitch marker into the middle row that we have within the front and the back panel. If you have my numbers, I have a total of 13 rows from this first neckline row all the way to my last neckline row. So my middle row is my 7th row, and it's going to be the same within the back panel. So I inserted my stitch marker into both of those side rows. And now from here, we're going to single crochet our way all the way around. So making sure that my work is flipped right side out, we're going to look at the back panel and then insert our 5.5 millimeter hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the back panel. I've inserted mine into this corner stitch. From here, we're going to single crochet, putting 1 single crochet into every side row, making our way across. And whenever we come in contact with our stitch marker, we're going to insert our stitch marker into the top of that stitch. So we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. We're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, so let's all start by finding our first side row, which this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert my hook into there with just 1 single crochet. Let's do the next one. This is my following side row, insert your hook into that top loop with another single crochet. And we're going to continue to do that until we reach our stitch marker. Now that I've reached my stitch marker stitch, I'm going to take it out for now, and we'll insert my hook into that side row with a single crochet, and then be sure to insert my stitch marker back into that same stitch, so I don't need to try and find my middle stitch again. From here, continue to put one single crochet into every side row. Once we reach the front panel, we should have some regular stitches to work into, working down our shoulder. So put one single crochet into every stitch, and then across our chest, one single crochet into every side row, making sure to insert your stitch marker into that stitch marker stitch as well. Make your way all the way around, slip stitch into that chain space, do a chain up of 1 cut, and then I will meet you back. So I'm back with my neckline. My single crochet rows all finished up, and I did make sure to insert my stitch markers into the middle stitches. From here, we're going to start working on one side of our collar first. So inserting our 5.5mm hook into the front panel's middle stitch, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and we're all going to start by making a chain the length that we want the start of this collar to be, because keeping in mind that it will get shorter the further back it gets. Now I'd like for mine to be just about 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 12. Now that I have my chain 12, we're going to half double crochet back. Start by blocking off that last chain, chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, and then into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a half double crochet. So insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over, into that following chain, insert, pull through all 3, and continue to do this until we have 2 stitches left. We've made our way down with our half double crochet row. We have 1, 2 chains left, and now we're going to do a decrease of 2 half double crochets. Yarn over, insert your hook into the second to last chain, pull through. Also insert your hook into that last chain, pull through. When we have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4. That is our decrease. From here, we're going to slip stitch into the following stitch into the base. So find that next available stitch, insert your hook in through there, pull through everything. That is our first half double crochet row. To work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base and flip our work. Now into the stitches nearest to the base, we're always going to do a decrease of 2 half double crochets. To get started on that, we're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through. Into that following stitch as well, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, then put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, leaving 2 so we can decrease together once more. I'm at the end of my row 3, and I have left 1, 2 stitches left. Now we're going to do another decrease. So yarn over, insert your hook into the second to last stitch, pull through, also into that last stitch, pull through. Yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and now connect it into the base. So into that following stitch into the base, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through everything, and then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch, flip your work, and then repeat. So start this row with a decrease of 2 half double crochets and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Continue to repeat these 2 rows until our collar can shrink down to the width that we like for the back portion of the collar to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I will meet you guys back along the base when I have that all finished up. I am back. I have a total of 7 rows, and the width that I have is finally about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. From here, I'm going to continue on with my half double crochets, but now with no decreases. So I'm going to continue to do this, making sure that we're connecting it into the base the same way that we've been doing, making our way all the way around. Once when I reach my stitch marker stitch along the back, I will do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we just did here on the other side. But when the second one is finished, I will not do a chain up of 1 and cut so that we can seam everything a lot easier. I've just made my way all the way around with both of my collars. After my second one, I didn't do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're going to seam it together. So for me, I'm just going to start by taking out my stitch marker stitch because we don't need that anymore. And then we're all going to make sure that our collar is laying flat because we want the seam to be along the inside once we fold it over. Once we have that, we're going to insert our hook into that first stitch into the front panel, into the first stitch into the back panel, and then we're going to single crochet it together. So the same seam that we did for the sides and the skirt. And continue to do this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now that our collar is all finished up, the last thing we're going to do is single crochet along our armholes to clean it up. So making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we're going to insert our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. From here, we'll be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, and then 1 single crochet into every stitch, going up and over the shoulder. So just to do the first one, let's find our first side row. This is mine right here. Find that top loop and insert your hook. Now I should have a couple tail ends from where we're at, and if you would like to weave them in as you go, place your tail ends on top of your hook, and then just single crochet around your tail ends. And now they're within the middle of the single crochet, so you don't need to weave them in later. Let's do just one more. This is my following side row right over here. Insert your hook into that top loop, place your yarn over your hook again, and then single crochet. Continue to do this, making our way all the way up and over. Slip stitch into that chain space, do a chain up 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. So now that our single crochet row is all finished up on both sides, we are all done. Last thing we have to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!